Hi, you're listening to The Island of a Lost Pilot by Rajesh Bhatia, narrated by Deepak Agnihotri. Chapter 21. The Search. 24th March 2008, Monday, 5 a.m. Shekhar jumped from his bed as the alarm of his mobile phone rang at 5 a.m. He was ready by 5:30 when the servant entered with a tray carrying coffee and some biscuits. He informed Shekhar that Mr. Ming was also ready and having his coffee. A taxi was already waiting. All the bags were stuffed in the car, and the taxi and both of them rushed to the airport. By 6:20, the bags were arranged in the aircraft. A 1979 model Cessna 340A with pressurized cabin. The plane was very well maintained, a white-colored body with red graphics. Ming and Shekhar took the seats, fastened the seat belts, and Ming started the engines, which sounded perfect, like new engines. The interior, the seats, the instrumental panel, every item was shining. The day was cool and humid. The sun had not yet risen completely, but the light was bright. Ming contacted the control tower and slowly taxied the aircraft. After 20 minutes, they had crossed the land and were on the open sea at a height of 10,000 feet, and the machine was set on the destined course. Ming checked his location, checked the speed, 200 miles or 320 kilometers per hour, made some mental calculations and said, "We will be at that point in 1.5 hours or by 8:30 a.m. Shekhar took out the binoculars and tried to look something vaguely at the sea. "We are too high. Even with the aid of such powerful binoculars, I am facing problem to locate anything on the sea surface." "We are very high, but there is nothing on the sea you can find, except water." "Look, there is a vessel of some type," said Ming, indicated a small point over the horizon. "And we will concentrate our studies on that." Within a minute, they were over the point. Shekhar adjusted the binoculars over the point. It was a small vessel going towards Hong Kong, but no detail could be found. Ming lowered the plane to 5,000 feet and the vessel enlarged to a great extent. With binoculars, it became clear that it was a cargo vessel. "At this height, we can locate a vessel. In order to locate a human being, we will have to fly still lower," said Shekhar and looked at Ming. "Let me see." Ming took the binoculars and viewed the vessel. "I think an altitude of 4,000 feet will be sufficient to locate a human being with binoculars so perfect. I will move the aircraft away from the vessel and you view it with the aid of binoculars. Tell me when this object disappears and is very difficult to locate." Ming instructed and noted the speedometer reading. Shekhar kept looking at the vessel and after about 1 minute it disappeared. "Now," said Shekhar. 6 kilometer. It means that from this height we can locate something less than 6 kilometer on either side of the plane up to the horizon sideways. But as 6 kilometer distance is too much, to be on the safer side and to get a still better view, we can keep ourselves at 4,000 feet and will be able to view up to 4 kilometer on either side, Ming concluded. Shekhar digested the information. As an engineer, he had the perfect brain to understand these things. In fact, he had also thought in a similar way. He tried to look at more objects at the horizon, performed some more experiments with the binoculars, rubbed and closed his tired eyes, and relaxed against the headrest. Ming resumed the height of 10,000 feet again. "This is the place." Ming consulted the GPS and pointed below. He was correct in his estimation and had brought the plane before 8:30. Shekhar placed the diagram drawn by Ming on his lap, and Ming said, "We have come over this line coming from Sek Kong and are now at this point, A, shown in this diagram." Shekhar looked at the sea below. Ming had brought the aircraft at 4,000 feet. All that Shekhar could see was the rippling sea, which was endless in every direction. How would anyone without any floating aid in the form of a boat, without any food and drinking water, have survived these 57 hours in this lonely sea? If he himself were here, it would have been impossible for him to spend even a few hours. He tried to look hard into the binoculars, but the result was nothingness. Somewhere in this sea, Rohan, his only son, was here 57 hours back. To trace him and bring him back was the mission. To take him back was a problem, but possible. To trace him was the problem, the solution of which was not plausible. On the paper, the fan-shaped figure was very small, but over the sea, and by looking at the vastness of the sea, the chances of finding Rohan seemed very remote. Where was he? There were many possibilities. Has he moved away? In which direction of the fan-shaped figure? Had he swum somewhere? But where to? Has he found some help on a ship? If he is on a ship, then why he has not yet contacted anybody? Or has he sunk along with the aircraft? If he has sunk, he won't be able to see him again, not ever his body. If he is safe, will he be able to reach the shore himself? Was he on some island and nearby? But where? These were the various questions arising in the mind of Shekhar. To find Rohan in this vast sea seemed next to impossible. The size of the sea surely had terrified Shekhar. So incapable is a man in front of nature, thought Shekhar, and lost himself. Rohan, my son, where are you? He murmured and started crying. Calm yourself, Mr. Shekhar. Please don't lose hope. We are doing our best. Shekhar went on crying and calling Rohan. Mr. Shekhar, you should better concentrate on your binoculars. Don't forget that due to even a small amount of carelessness, you may not find your son, even if he is waving at you. Shekhar composed himself and resumed his search amidst his sobbing. Ming was indeed very sorry for him. He had moved the plane at course at an angle of 45 degrees to the left towards the point B, which was about 140 kilometers away. He had slowed the plane to 200 kilometers per hour so that Shekhar may not lose the sight of his son. Shekhar was carefully scrutinizing both the sides up to the horizons. 24th March 2008, Monday, 8:35 a.m. Rohan woke up from his unconsciousness due to many simultaneous things. There were showers of rain falling on his face. Water birds were making a lot of commotion. Some crabs were biting him, and the plank was continually hitting the walls of a straight rock about 100 feet high. Besides this, the waves were hitting the hill with strong force, and the splashing sound was faintly audible in his faintness. He opened his eyes weakly, tried to smile, and opened his mouth to its fullest to grab the maximum number of drops of pure rainwater. He was amused at the thought of reaching the land after all the hardships. He looked sideways and to his left found a very steep and straight rock, 100 feet high from the sea. He had reached the shore, or perhaps an island, but this side there was a steep and high cliff. He will have to go around the cliff to find a suitable place to land. He had very little energy to swim. He looked around and found a long pole-like tree branch. Some water birds were standing there on one leg and staring curiously at him. He used his hands as oars and picked up the branch. He plucked the leaves and broke the small branches to have a pole-like stick to poke in the sandy bottom of the sea, so as to push the plank on which he was lying. Slowly, he moved along the rocky coastline in an anti-clockwise direction. The rocky side on his left was more than 1 kilometer long, and while he turned towards left, the width of the island appeared to be about half kilometer. The rocky side was very steep, but on the other side there were green trees and a nice beach. After all, he had reached some place. Was it an island or a peninsula? Was anybody living on it? Gathering all his strength, he moved ahead, and ultimately the water level was too low for the plank to float. He got down on the secluded beach. He had become very weak, and so he fell in the water. He gathered some more energy and got up, trembling. Otherwise he would have choked under the water. Very slowly he moved on and lay spread-eagled on the sandy beach. His breath was heavy and the whole place seemed to spin around him. Suddenly, a strong wave rushed towards him and he was submerged under the sea water. The wave was pulling him back into the sea. He gripped the ground very hard to retain himself at that place, but the sand slipped from his fists when the water receded. Ming reached at the point B, took again a left turn and tried to move roughly on a circular path to reach at D. Shekhar was constantly on the watch, using the binoculars to look at both the right and left directions alternatively. Not a trace of anything but water. "We are almost at this point D," announced Ming. "It all looks same to me, water and only water everywhere. Whether it is point A, B or D, how you can be so sure that you have traveled exactly on that curve BCD?" "I am not very sure, but I have had planned a certain course of my own, based on my experience, which will take me on that circular path in the form of small straight lines. I may travel on a polygonal track, but it will give you the desired results. I sometimes wonder whether we are following the right procedure to locate Rohan. This fan-shaped diagram, this method of finding Rohan with the help of an aircraft. We should have taken the services of some rescue experts in this field." "Don't worry, Mr. Shekhar. We may not be experts, but we are also not dumb either. The rescue experts are available with the government. They may not help us immediately, and you also wanted to keep them away. We have a free hand here, and we are doing our best. Rest we can leave up to God." Shekhar nodded. He hoped for the best. Ming set the course of the plane towards A. "Now we will move 8 kilometers inwards and take inner path parallel to the outer route taken previously and also have our breakfast." The plane was set on inner course and on autopilot. Ming's servant had packed for them a basket of food and an icebox containing cans of beer and coke with water bottles. Shekhar opened the basket, unwrapped the sandwich packet and handed one to Ming. He took out a flask of coffee and poured for himself and Ming in plastic disposable glasses. The basket contained some biscuit, cake and also chips packets. These items will also be charged to the tune of 10 folds by Ming, a perfect businessman. Earlier Malhotra and now Ming. Shekhar's lips twisted into a smile and he concentrated towards his binoculars with a coffee glass in his hand. Second circle was completed, 432 kilometers. Third circle was made 8 kilometers inwards of the second circle. A distance of 363 kilometers was covered. "Now it is time to return," announced Ming, looking at his fuel gauge, which displayed the needle at 1/4 mark. "Can't we take another circle? How much distance we have covered?" asked Shekhar, with eyes still glued to the binoculars focused at the horizon. "We can calculate 494 kilometers from Sekkong to A, plus first circle 485 kilometers, plus second circle 432 kilometers, plus third circle 363 kilometers is equal to 1,774 kilometers. We have still to go 494 kilometers for our backward journey, and that will make 1,774 plus 494 is equal to 2,268 kilometers. We have calculated our range up to 2,368 kilometers. The tanks will be about dry when we will reach back." Shekhar digested the information, sighed and said, "Okay, tomorrow we will try again." "Sure, and we will succeed," assured Ming, opening a can of beer while the plane was directed towards Sekkong and put to autopilot at the height of 10,000 feet again. Shekhar rubbed his eyes, which were aching. His head was also spinning and ached. He took out a pouch of emergency medicine from his pocket, selected a headache pill and gulped it down with water. He splashed some water into his eyes, closed them and rested his head against the headrest.